Hello everyone, welcome to this week's edition of the SAP Fiori-side chat. We are very excited that you have joined us today again. My name is Eugen Winchell and I'm with the SAP UX product management team. And as usual, I'm joined by my co-host Keith Fisher. Today's topic for the Fiori-side chat is the SAP AppHaus Network. And for that, we have invited a great round of experts from the extended SAP family for a panel discussion. In today's round, we have colleagues and partners from the SAP AppHaus Network join us. And as such, they do business transformation projects with SAP customers all the time, weaving in Fiori design principles, each in their own unique and innovative flavor. And today we have with us Dan Barton, Jörg Wesiak, Naveen Rockam, and Shahid Khan. Welcome, everyone. And to make it truly interactive, we invite all of you to ask questions and comment during our chat. But before we get started, we wanted to set just a few ground rules, and over to Keith for that.
Hello, everyone. So yeah, thrilled to have this panel with us today. So first and foremost, our focus is on SAP UX and UX related topics. We're not selling you anything. This is not a sales session. We're not collecting any of your information, and we won't be contacting you afterwards unless you have a question that we need to follow up on. We're part of a larger ecosystem, so we ask you to kind of refrain from promoting third-party services or tools. And as a bit of an introduction to the Zoom platform, if you've not joined us before, we actually have a few buttons at the bottom of the screen. The first one that's helpful is the Zoom webinar chat. If you go ahead and introduce yourself there by just putting your name and your company, we'd like to know who you are. And then secondarily, there is a Q&A button down there as well. If you ask questions in that window, we'll go ahead and answer them, as possible and as allowed as the conversation flows. We do like to have people ask questions on audio and or video. So if you're interested, just raise your hand and we're happy to put you up on screen if you'd like to join, or you could ask your questions directly. So we're thrilled again to have this panel with us. This is an informal conversation, but we are recording things. So for posterity's sake, we'd like to try and keep things civil, but fun and interesting and interactive. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our panel and to our introductions. So Dan, welcome back, and why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself for the audience?
Thanks, Keith. Good morning, everybody. It's Dan Barton here from Bluestone X, calling in from the UK in our church design centre. And Bluestone X, really, we're an innovation partner with SAP. The main focus is around the AppHaus Network and SAP Cloud Platform. My background is kind of design, by 20 years of SAP experience, and I lead the design and cloud practice.
Great, thank you, Dan, and welcome back. So Jörg, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi, nice to be here. I'm with NETCONOMY since 2011. NETCONOMY is an implementation partner of SAP, fully focused on C4 products. And together with my team, in my consulting team, I'm leading I'm creating innovative products and business cases with our clients, and bring new business models together with the clients and the customer experience.
Great, welcome. And Naveen, welcome to the chat. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey guys, this is Marian Brooke. I work for Mindset Consulting. We are based out of Twin Cities, Minnesota in the US. In my role as the Vice President for Digital Transformation, primarily we help companies bring their problem statements and solve them with technology and innovation ideas in the SAP space. Really passionate about talking and sharing some of our learnings with this group today.
Great, thank you and welcome. And Shahid, certainly not last and not least, go ahead and introduce yourself.
So my name is Xiao Han. I am with the SAP AppHaus in Palo Alto. Palo Alto is one of the 5 global locations for the AppHaus, and later on I will get into detail exactly what we do. And I've also put in my LinkedIn profile, those of you who would like to connect with me.
Great. And let's quickly get started with a quick poll just to see how familiar you, the audience, is with the AppHaus Network. And while this is coming in, let's maybe get started with the first questions. Shahid, as you mentioned, you are with SAP and the SAP AppHaus Network, which is one of the 5 locations, is here in Palo Alto. Could you give us a quick introduction and overview of what actually AppHaus is and what you offer to customers?
Okay, sure, happy to do it. So AppHaus is an organization that is customer facing. We help customers innovate along 4 dimensions. First dimension is around business models. And the reason for that dimension is with the immense amount of data that is being captured, it offers new possibilities to change or transform or come up with a new model. The second aspect is business process innovation. And what I mean by that is some of our customers have processes that are 20 plus years old. The developers are long gone and the things keep getting done the same way, which actually in the COVID time, I've seen customers running into problems. An example is responding to a customer inquiry takes you a day and you wonder why? Why can't it be done in a very rapid, chatbot or some other functions? So business model, business process innovation. The third one is the user experience transformation, which is in the enterprise world, it can benefit tremendously from user experience. And the last one, what we have found in our work over the last 5-6 years is creating culture of innovation. So those are the 4 offerings we do. We have a unified methodology that all our partners also use. It's called SAP's customer-led innovation, and it's a 5-phase process. So the methodology we use to help our customers innovate along business model, along business processes, along user experience and creating innovation culture is along the dimensions of exploration, discover, design, deliver, and run and scale. Typically when we engage with the customers, we request and gently demand presence of business people along with the IT. I'll give you a very recent example. We were engaged with a customer, it's an energy company. And when we looked at the end of exploration, all the use cases they had, they were very IT centric. And so I asked the question to the CIO saying, if you didn't do the top use case, what would happen? He said, well, we will have broken processes. I said, well, how does your end customer experience that? And he had to think hard, and then he finally brought somebody from business. They said that right now we offer energy contracts 3 to 5 years ahead, and we have to have a blend of energy, solar, hydro, as well as wind power. And if we don't have unified view, our quotation could be wrong and we could actually lose money. So the point I'm making is that when we say customer-led, we must have business present in the flow that I'm sharing with you. And again, the 4 offerings we have: business model, business process, user experience, and innovation culture.
So I'm actually curious to kind of follow up with some of our other panelists here on these various topics. So Dan, what did you like about the AppHaus, and what made you decide to make that choice to join the AppHaus network and as opposed to kind of building a slightly different practice?
Yeah, so just to tell our story of it, really, I visited the AppHaus in Heidelberg way back when it was kind of first conceived, really. So that inspired me. As you can see behind me, one of our design centers, the church here, is kind of created from some of those visits that we had to the AppHaus in Heidelberg. And it was to bring together that inspiration, that open space design flavor for our customers. So not only do we use the space behind me for events, but also workshops with customers to try and drive some of that innovation and adopt some of that culture around innovation and user experience. So, I mean, yeah, my experience of going to Heidelberg and the AppHaus, the first time I saw it, I was like, wow, and that's exactly what we try to create here in the church design center.
Yeah, it's a beautiful space. So, and you run actually the first CX focused AppHaus worldwide when you opened in Vienna. So, what was the motivation of NETCONOMY to join, and what goals are you aiming for in providing this specific offering?
Well, for us, it was very important to have a strong package around innovation, and therefore the AppHaus Network perfectly fits to us because the vision of the AppHaus Network to become the largest design-led innovation agency in the world perfectly fits to our ideas and what we also want to gain with our customers. And for our offering itself, or our motivation to open the AppHaus was that we are able together with our clients to design business cases which are truly relevant to the customers of our clients and can deliver a great customer experience and which can be implemented fast and also with a high value for those customers.
All right, pretty cool. And Naveem, so could you give us a little background on your choice to join the AppHaus Network and
Absolutely.
your team from Mindset? Yeah.
Yeah. So Mindset was one of the first AppHaus, in North America. We are the first AppHaus in US. And one of the primary reasons that we wanted to join this community is we strongly believed in the principle that innovation is driven by creativity. And in order to be creative, sometimes once in a while, all of us have to go to Starbucks to write a blog or two. Once in a while, all of us to get into that space where we are creative and things like that. So essentially creating a platform, a space where the community, the customers, the people, the end users, everybody could come in and ideate on great big ideas for business transformation, problem solving, all of that, and translating that into a space and innovation culture. We thought that was a perfect segue, and that's how we got into the AppHaus.
So I have a question then, a more general question. So, can you actually really do UX business transformation separate from UX transformation? Are they not necessarily kind of tightly linked in the, if you're trying to, for example, implement Fiori, right? I mean, is it something that you can do without at least considering or touching on some form of business transformation?
I would see that user experience transformation yields in business transformation, right? That's an opportunity right now. And as SAP and the customers are entering into that S4 space, most people tend not to think about Fiori as a part of the business transformation, but I would say that's the biggest opportunity that they're losing there. They should encash on that. When we are designing a software, a product with a user-centric approach, it is more about that user and how they can leverage that software to transform their operations, their work life, and their day-to-day challenges. So that's definitely intertwined. It's very hard to delineate both, in my opinion. Would like to hear from the group though.
Yeah.
So Keith, can I take a shot at this?
Sure.
I don't think the two things can go in sync. I'll give you a very recent example. Without naming the company, it's a $50 billion organization. And we started with our flow. And right after 30 seconds, the person said, I'm not interested in user experience. I have a $50 billion problem. What can you do for me? So so I had to pivot saying, what is your business problem? Their business problem is they have a price list with 2 billion entries. 2 billion. They have changes that happen every day. Their current problem is that it takes them 1 week to realize those changes. And the margins are somewhat very competitive. So in this case, 2 completely separate problems. So I had to pivot saying, let's focus on solving your big problem and we'll come back to whatever is the rest. And that led on to another conversation. Well, gee, why do you have 2 billion price items? So you can see it depends from the business issue where you end up in terms of trying to solve them. And once you do, they will come back to you saying, well, what about this? What about that?
Yeah, I can imagine from a master data management perspective, just try to be able to enter or find or delete or update one of those 2 billion items might in its own right be a user experience problem. But anyway, so other examples from the panel in terms of keeping these things in parallel or separate, or do you actually have to bring business transformation as part of a story?
Well, I think from my point of view or my experience, yeah, I think we all use similar techniques whether it's business transformation or user experience. We all use a certain methodology. Sometimes we focus in, as Rishi was saying earlier, you focus on a particular element of that, but we all use similar methodology to try and solve the problem. You know, and whether that is a technology problem or whether it is purely you know, a business process, or whether it is a user experience transformation, I think we're all very similar in terms of how we would approach that.
Right. So do you have any examples, you know, of similar kind of aha moments where you might start down one road and pivot and take another path when it comes to, you know, what the area of focus is?
I mean, me again, I'll let you come in on this one before I answer.
Then if you can just go ahead. I just continue afterwards.
Oh, I was going to go back. You know, that not so much the aha moments, but we've been in very similar positions where we will have stakeholders, you know, in a workshop environment where we are trying to get to the root cause of a problem. And, you know, especially with user experience, I think sometimes it's called user experience for a reason, and users aren't typically present. And that has been, you know, going back to the point there, I think it's very important that you get the right business representation within these types of workshops. Otherwise, sometimes I think it's quite difficult to get to the root cause of problems if you don't.
Okay. Jörg?
As you asked before about an aha situation, so it's, from my perspective, it's really even when you have a design approach which is human-centric and where you really focus all the time on the business cases and the users who are using that, the tests of the prototypes, when you're doing this human-centric design approach, always brings up an aha moment. So one was I joined a workshop last year with a beverage company, and we tested a long time in prototype, and then we did a field test, and in the field test suddenly a bartender who was using this app brought out that we have quite nice ideas, but we need a small thing to add, and then it's a good run for the whole project. And we really did a small adaptation because this was bringing a lot of value, and this was a really aha situation. So asking afterwards the clients and the users brings all the time an aha in the project.
Yeah.
So these were really good examples for what you have done with customers when you actually could meet them in person. Especially, I think the example that Shahid brought, like, I think it would have been quite interesting to have a conversation like that over a virtual format. So how do you actually deal with the current situation with COVID-19 and physical meetings are being actually either not allowed or very difficult to bring people together at the moment? How does that actually change your strategy in terms of like having these workshops and meetings?
So again, the last two examples I gave were over the virtual way of doing things. Okay. They were not in person. Let me contrast it with another situation. I was working with a customer in a very well-known city called Medellin in Colombia. You should know what that city is famous for, cocaine. Pablo Escobar was born there. And the company I was working with, they produce something called white goods, which is refrigerators, stoves, those kinds of things. And there were two asks from them. One was a specific problem that 70% of their products were sold through retailers. Once the product was sold, they would get no information about the customer. The only time they would hear when there was a call because it was broken down, they needed a service. So the session was, how can we get customer information so we can service them in a better way? The second ask was business model change. It's a very iconic company in Colombia. It's more than 70 years old. So during the first day challenge, which was how might we get more information about the customer, we can delight them. During the ideation, the last reframing, I said to them, imagine Pablo Escobar was here. What ideas would he come up with? to delight the customers. And this is towards the end of the day, everybody was tired. So the CEO jumps up, he said, bingo, I got it. I will get 24/7 service. And in fact, within 3 months, he went to those poor neighborhoods and he trains 4 youngsters on repairing the machines. The second example for the business model was that they went to a nearby village and they gave some washing machines to the families saying, you should offer washing as a service. So in 2 months, that didn't work because the family didn't have transportation to go and deliver. So then they pivoted and then they tried the model within a very high-rise buildings within Medellin, and I think it worked to some degree. The point I'm making about the most difficult one to actually see it working is business model transformation. It's not a 3-month you can get something. You have to do a lot of experiments. And what I've seen, business model tracking actually takes you 3 to 5 years before you say, I'm making money in it. So just a caution. Okay.
So Jörg, do you have an example of how you actually digitize or virtualize, better said, your sessions?
Yeah, when COVID started, we also had the situation that we have to virtualize our workshops, and we used for that Mural boards and Zoom as a video conferencing system to talk to each other, and then also have an interactive way how to collaborate. And we invested a lot of time in preparation of those workshops before. So we already did a lot of interviews and also created already some hypotheses for the workshop. This is a part which, when we do it on site, we reduce a bit so to be more creative. But in the virtual setup, we had to create this hypothesis because to have a starting point with the discussion. And with those small changes, we really figured out that workshops in a virtual setup works more or less in the same way like an on-site meeting, and also the results doesn't differ that much. So this was a pretty cool experience, and now we had already adapted our process and have this virtual concept now also available for our workshops.
And Dan, do you have any examples of how you virtualized?
I think I shared it in the last session, but I don't mind sharing it again. Yeah, this is our interpretation of how COVID-19 affected us and our customers. So yeah, some key takeaways. Obviously, we have technology that helps us. We're using Zoom today, but a lot of what we use is via Microsoft Teams. We do surveys with our customers and people that are participating in workshops. We use Mural, and I think we're going to have a bit of a little demo later on from that. But we also use, even in terms of prototyping, we will try and do prototyping on an online session. And that is low fidelity prototyping where it's pen and paper. So drawing things out, loading that into SAP Build. And then we use high fidelity software as well, like Photoshop and InVision. But I guess that technology aside, the skills that I think that you need to run remote design thinking sessions or remote sessions are slightly different. As I've said previously, I think a strong facilitator around time management is quite key. I don't really think doing long duration of workshops online is a good thing. I don't think it gets the best out of people. So having them more shorter, on time, prompt, and concise times is good. Obviously preparation as well. So prior to the workshop, again, like we've had to do, test that Zoom is all working. So I think that's a good takeaway. And also the fact, again, the office and design spaces and workshops are a kind of equalizer for everybody. We're all on the same page. We're in a workshop, but when people are working remotely, that can be quite challenging, as we spoke about previously, with whether it's children running around or whatever's going on in your particular environment. So this would be our summary of a guide to a remote design thinking workshop.
maybe I can also add to Dan, because I totally agree with that. We had the same experience, and I guess what also is additionally very, very important also to create some kind of a team feeling in this virtual workshop. So we did also some kind of team buildings where we ask, for example, question, what was your dream when you were a young child? Also to figure out some soft skills and get the team built.
You actually mentioned, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Naveen.
Yeah, that's a good point. One other thing I would like to add into the mix is usually for an in-person workshop, we do about a few days of preparation, going through the research phase and things like that. But for a remote workshop, the preparation phase is much longer than that. And we experimented a few models where we had one facilitator, one designer, two facilitators, three designers. So there's a little bit of that combination, of course, based on the group and size of the group. I think some of the panelists also mentioned preparation is the key, and ensuring that we are able to navigate through tough conversations while being remote is also important. I do have one quick thing I wanted to show to this audience is the mural boards. I saw comments in the chat window. Mural boards have been working great for Mindset as well. We created some templates, and without getting too much into customer details, very simple templates where you encourage people to, hey, and you can share this link to anybody anonymous, and they can come and put some post-it notes, share their background, their work environment, pain points and goals. Very simple, basic format and very good collaborative tools, but they go a long way in bringing that energy in the room.
So if I can add to everybody else's tips for running remote workshops through Mural. In fact, if there is a child that is coming into the frame, I encourage the participant to have the child. It lightens up the mood, it relaxes everybody, and that's reality. So you have immediate empathy with people who suddenly have to deal with children at home. I've done it at least 3-4 times, including cats and dogs as well, as long as they don't submit ideas that I won't understand. The other thing is things never go as planned, meaning the technical setup may be perfect. You get 20 minutes into it and something happens. So I pivot a lot. I use a lot of polling in between to see what the gut feel is. Sometimes the technology challenge, somebody's video may not be working, so I have to find out how they're doing. One of the other big learnings, I'm going to share a screen with you. It's a mural. My recommendation is have a dark mode. It reduces the glare and it reduces tiredness on part of the participants. Don't do white background. It's like 50,000 volts coming at the user. So I have converted all my murals into the dark mode. In addition, the next thing I'm doing is, in order not to complicate things, if I have content that is not related to the workshop. So let's say I have a presentation. So instead of juggling between Zoom, between PowerPoint, between Mural, I actually put it all into Mural, and using its table of content, I can walk through much more easily with them. So that way I am only dealing with two things. I'm dealing with Mural and I'm dealing with Zoom. So that's the other share out that I think I wanted to share. Session, I think people max out after about 1.5 hours. So I've learned to ask for 3 hours, but get done in 1.5 hours and have multiple sessions in between. It's too intense to ask somebody to be there for 5 hours or 4. It just doesn't work for me. The next phenomena, which I'm still trying to figure out in terms of ideation, asking them to put ideas on Mural actually slows down the quantity of ideas. So what I ask is, have a paper and pencil ready, jot your ideas on a paper and pencil, and then you can take a picture and upload it for the record. And when we have the next session, everybody will see what the ideas are. I think asking them to think and then put it on a Post-it note, I found that the number of ideas goes down dramatically. So it's kind of a hybrid. I'm still trying to figure out why it is happening. It's kind of very similar to digital addiction, you know, multitasking. It doesn't work for me. So that's what I wanted to share. Back to you.
Those are some great tips and tricks. Other tips and tricks from the panel?
I'd just like to emphasize what was said previously by Shahid about empathy. It's quite a challenge to have that empathy on a remote call. Like as we said, I think it's a great breaker when, you know, children are running around, and if the participants can involve those children, I think that's a good thing. A lot of people still, when we run workshops, they don't even switch the video on, and again, that's challenging. You want to see people's faces, you want to see emotion and things like that. So again, you should encourage the use of video as well. But as I said, I think some people, you know, like just going back to the technology, the fact that you can blur a background or add a background, I think people should know of those tips and tricks, because again, people are in different environments. They might be slightly embarrassed of, you know, where they're working from. Some people are at a kitchen table, other people have nice offices. So again, that whole empathy thing, you can't really value it, you know, enough. It's very, very important to me.
Jörg, any additional tips and tricks?
Yeah, one thing which is very important also, I guess, is that every participant is on his own device. Suddenly you have the situation that people are sitting in one meeting room. This doesn't really work out because some people are not willing to talk in this group. Then also you don't hear them well. So it's quite important that everybody has his own device and also microphone, so that it's easy to collaborate. And what we also figured out is that when you do some kind of brainstorming, where people are thinking about their ideas, also music helps. So we also sometimes also play in some nice music which fits to the group, and this also brings up new way of creativity and also new experience, and they really keep it in the mind afterwards. So this is also something pretty cool.
Cool. So Naveem, I have a question for you. So in conducting workshops in this virtual format, I mean, I could see where in a normal workshop, you have the time where people are moving around, they're putting Post-its up, you know, there's you know, a lengthened period of time of the interaction that goes on in a room. Do you find that these virtual workshops are more intense as a result of everyone pretty much staying in the same place? They're kind of sitting there, they're typing, you know, immediately onto Post-its. So, you know, what's been your experience?
That's a good question. In our in-person AppHaus driven workshops, we usually make it a little fun. Like there is ping pong tables, you know, people play dart guns. There's a little bit of golf putter set and things like that, right? So people can always go around, ease their muscles, and, you know, kick in their creative juices. Coming to remote thinking workshops, one of the first things that we realized is don't keep them like more than 2-3 hours, as Shahid was saying, right? Like very time bound, never make them a day-long session. It never works well for anyone. Keep it short and simple. At the same time, also keep it a little fun, you know, have some icebreakers, make sure that people are able to constantly be in tune with the conversation that's happening. And again, some of the things that we also try to make it fun is we put up some random barcode scanners on the screen and ask people to take out their phone, scan it out and see some and answer some trivia questions and things like that. Keeping it very lively is very important part of the overall conversation. Another thing that I found really useful is, though we have a lead facilitator, it's always important to have a co-facilitator who's constantly looking at the chat window, capturing some ideas, you know, teeing up your mural boards and ensuring things are put in a right fashion, and, you know, bringing all of that, connecting the I's and crossing the T's and bringing it together. So some of those tricks have definitely helped us a lot.
Great. Any other ideas on how to, you know, have fun and keep the human side of the engagement going? Yeah,
so Keith, so imagine doing a workshop that is in Spanish and one doesn't speak Spanish. And the customer, because of their level of seniority, they don't want to do Post-it notes. How do you deal with that?
Oh, fascinating.
So what I had to do, I had a translate window on one side. which worked pretty good. And I drafted up one of my team members to actually listen and transcribe for the senior person. Fortunately, the senior person on the customer side had so much information that he literally talked for 75 minutes. The benefit to us was we captured so much great information that we had never heard before. So that was a challenging one. And in fact, I always have 3 facilitators with me minimum, whether it's in English or in Spanish, because I want somebody to monitor the chat window, somebody to make sure that the stuff is organized on the mirror board, and I focus on, moving the activity forward. It hasn't worked for me with 2 people. 3 is minimum. And in the process, a few times customers said, what you're doing, can you come and teach us this stuff too? Because we are also remote. So it blends into a conversation saying, can you actually do the training on the way you're doing stuff, which is great for Mural because they get more customers. There is some sensitivity. I think my observation is every region has specific nuances. For example, in LATAM, they want more empathy, more warmth during the workshop, whereas I think in North America, it's cut and dry, you just move on. So I have to adjust accordingly to see, okay, what is the cultural context? What are they used to? And again, it comes back to what Dan said earlier. I try to keep empathy upfront. Even if I have to go off script, I will do that. Even if I have to go a little bit longer to bring them back in, I will do that. Because it's not so much about the process, it's the experience. I want them to come back and say, oh, can we do it again?
Right.
Maybe.
So go ahead.
Dan and Jurga, like in the European market, do you see like similarities from what Shahid just mentioned in terms of like you see differences in the countries that you serve with your company?
We do, for sure, yeah. Different countries, different behaviors, different ways of how they carry about their business. So it is, yeah, I guess for me, if we're dealing in a region where we've not really had much experience, we have to do a little bit of research, I think.
So do you find, just to the audience in general, or to the panel in general, do you find that with a virtual platform, it actually gives you reach to participants who might not normally attend an in-person workshop, either for travel reasons or discomfort? I mean, does it really open up the playing field a little bit to having more types of people that you wouldn't normally see in a workshop?
I mean, for me, yes, but in order to open the door to that workshop, sometimes can be a bit challenging. I guess where I see it is if people are more educated in what this value can bring, via design and innovation, then yeah, for sure, remote design thinking would have a big upward curve. But for me, I think once the door has been opened, people value the concept of doing it remote. People are going to save money. We can do it anywhere. But as I said, I think there is a caveat with that. Whereas, I don't think nothing beats the face-to-face interaction, but I'm sure we'll get there. I'm sure we'll come up with methods to beat down some of these barriers.
So Keith, if I can answer a question, it was in the Q&A live, would that be okay?
Yeah, of course.
So the question is, what recommendations do you have in terms of embedding and nurturing a culture of innovation in organizations? So culture ownership is a CEO problem. It is not an HR problem. If the CEO is not bought in, you can do anything you want. It's not happening. So if in your organization, you want to start at the ground level, you can have a try, but I don't think you'll be successful. Unless the leadership, especially the CEO, perceives that I need to have my organization innovative, and the CEO has to demonstrate in multiple ways to make that happen. I'll give you one tip. culture of transparency, it's a big thing. If it's not a culture where people are transparent with each other across all levels, your innovation is not happening. Here's an example. Keith, you have a fantastic idea. You pitch it to XYZ, they said, great, and what do you need? And Keith, you say, I'm gonna need 5 resources and I'm gonna need $2 million to run 5 experiments. Okay, I think I will have it to you next week. Week comes, nothing. 2 weeks come, nothing. 3rd week, you run into that leader saying, I'm just curious, you said this. He said, okay, I'll get back to you. Nothing happens for 4 weeks. What do? It means that, do you feel comfortable after 7 weeks, you schedule an appointment for 5 minutes saying, I just want to understand, you showed great enthusiasm and you committed the budget. What happened? Will you feel comfortable asking this to the CEO?
Right.
And I can tell you the bad news is, in most companies, you can't. But the companies that do are the ones who do amazing innovations.
Great.
Long
Any
answer.
other kind of perspectives on that, on the culture, and establishing the culture of innovation?
Sometimes it's quite hard, but what you also have to give is give a voice to small things which happen in the daily business. So I recognized a lot of clients that they are struggling with small problems and they do not call it out. But if you get this information, you can bring in a lot of value in this whole innovation part. If you can give them a voice in your organization, this really brings you also forward in your daily business. Sometimes innovation can also be a small step for you as a company, in a general perspective, but a huge step for you as a company and organization.
Great.
I would like to add one quick note on the same vein there. One of the things that I observed working with leaders and transformational leaders who led these initiatives is they always start small. They pick up one use case, one nugget of the problem that can create the story, create the impact. And of course, every organization has some sort of convoluted matrix level of complexity, right? So they try to navigate through all the challenges and somehow find the ability to do this one nugget of use case, and they do it, and they broadly communicate that within the organization. So it's again an art of storytelling. If the leader has the ability to drive an idea from inception to prototype and show value to the business, and then they build on that saying, hey, this is the culture that we have to do. This is the innovation, the way that we have to progress within the organization. And I have seen leaders being successful using that starting small and scaling quick concept.
Right. So do you find that you're seeing more activity from customers that are looking to tackle innovations, specifically, kind of post-virus, solutions, right? I mean, it's changing their business. They need to move more quickly. Are you seeing more business as a result of this need?
I'll go first on this one. Yeah, interestingly, like COVID-19 has clearly changed the way we all behave from work in a workplace. Interestingly, we built a few apps on the SAP Cloud Platform for visitor and staff and contract management. Clearly, with COVID-19, any visitors coming to site, which was pretty rare, the customer now wanted things like face recognition. People don't want to touch certain things. So it is driving a different type of innovation. Some of it is really interesting stuff. And that's kind of, we've seen a bit of a swell in demand on those types of topics.
So Keith, I have an example. This is one of the largest retailers in Latin America. And 2 years ago, our team was advising them that you should have your own online ordering and delivering. They went a different way. They hired a third party that takes the online orders, delivers, and collects the money. COVID-19, this company has no cash. Why? That delivery company takes the money and keeps it for 30 days.
Wow.
You can imagine the need to accelerate digital transformation is right now. They want it at a speed of light because they're hurting.
Yeah, Naveem, is that what you're seeing as well? That the innovations have to come quicker, or people moved up their timelines?
Absolutely. I have some examples in the finance space, especially in the commodity trading, where people, I mean, months ago, if you ever asked them to come for a workshop for like 2-3 days, they're like, they can't step away from the screen. They got to be on the trading floor and things like that, right? And now, with things being changing and they're also trading from their home, they see the ability for them to squeeze in some time for these workshops and things like that. At the same time, they also have time where they can focus on some of these innovative initiatives. And especially we are talking about this customer who is looking for an S4 CFIN product, and they just couldn't find time to get all these initiatives in a row. And now they're able to do all of that.
Right. Jörg, do you have any examples?
Yeah, well, next to some other customer stories, I also see that the AppHaus network also benefits out of this situation. So with COVID-19, we now created every AppHaus more or less created their adaptation of the offline and on-site process to a virtual concept, and this is pretty cool. So we are not stopped with COVID-19 to drive innovation. So if you want to start innovation, you can do that now. And this is a great message from my perspective, and also for the whole AppHaus network. It was a huge step forward. So also here, even that we do also this discussion today, yeah, also shows how important this virtual add-on or addition already got.
So Keith, a couple of other observations. Because of this virtualization, it's a lot easier to get customer meetings because they're also at home. So it has not been, oh, my calendar is booked, I'll get back to you in 2 months. I think I find that things happen a lot quicker, scheduling of the meetings, workshops, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. So then the question, what do you think, guys, once COVID-19 is over and people are back to travel again and like to be in one room again, do you think we will still have virtual sessions and remote, or do you think we actually will go all the way back to workshops on site as we used to do?
From my perspective, it will be a good mixture. There will be, of course, offsite workshops, but there still will be the place for this virtual one. I still believe that it will change us in the whole future.
Yeah, I'd agree. We call it the new abnormal, don't we? But I initially, when COVID-19 broke, I was trying to figure out what would be the outcome in terms of the way we continue to behave. And I think, like Jörg, it'll be a hybrid model. I think we will start to interact again and do on-site, workshops, but I still think there'll be a good mix of remote as well.
Yeah, in the same line there, one thing that I would like to add is both these have their own place, the remote workshops and the in-person workshops. Both of them have the pros and cons. Your in-person enables you to have more empathy, more ideation, more in-person connection and things like that. Your remote enables you to be more flexible, more agile, get more meetings scheduled with the customers, less travel and things like that. So I would definitely echo the sentiment that it will be a hybrid model going forward. As much fun it is to do things in AppHaus, of course, I'm sure people enjoy coming in, feeling the energy and, doing things there. If this is the way that world has changed, then definitely we have to adapt our processes and methodologies accordingly.
I think it's going to depend on, I think COVID-19 has accelerated the need for customers to do things differently. So now speed matters. So if speed matters, they want to get things done. We actually now have 2 options for them to speed up. They can come to our respective app houses and do it, or they can do a virtual one. So from a customer perspective, can you show me something in 8 weeks, for example? So instead of saying, no, we have to schedule, we have to come to your side, or you have to come to our side, it actually gives me much more flexibility, saying this combination will get you to that 8 weeks. That's one. The other thing that I have a sense for, I think most of my engagements involve the C-suite. I think having them physically present is greatly helpful because they are very busy. I can tell you during initial conversations, I know they're on their mobile phone because their eyes are looking down. So to get their attention span, even for 2-3 hours in person, so where they buy off on the approach, bless the approach, and then promise to follow up. I think in person, it's hard to get them engaged in a virtual one.
So talking about the virtual setups, and we're coming now slowly to the end of the call. Have you planned any online activities, any virtual events around your AppHaus and AppHaus Network that you would like to highlight here so that the audience knows of what will be available in the next few days and weeks?
We're planning to do some a beginner's guide to remote design thinking. So there'll be something coming out probably via LinkedIn in terms of being able to register. We were due to open our church design center. So we might do something online for that and maybe have a virtual beer. But apart from that, no, it's, yeah, COVID-19 has hit us, especially, you know, the opening of our AppHaus has hit us quite hard. But yeah, like all businesses, we just have to adapt, yeah, and push through.
Okay.
I think my colleagues in Heidelberg AppHaus are thinking of doing some kind of a 3D or hologram experience.
Okay.
If they're not, I just told them to do it. No, but seriously, I think they are exploring that. In fact, they put out a sustainable innovation video on Vimeo. I've copied the link and I've also put it on my LinkedIn profile. Just to give them a flavor of, yes, we are remote, but you know, do remember creative spaces are very, very important to very good experiences and great business outcomes.
Great. Okay. Then Keith, do you want to start the Mentimeter?
Sure.
So what we're actually doing here is Keith has a very great digital platform to actually gauge your input and your feedback directly in the tool.
So just click on the chat and the enter in your comments there for future Fiori-side chats. But this has been really interesting, and I think that as time goes forward, I'm intrigued about the types of changes and innovations that you make in terms of the AppHaus itself and its presentation. So really, really appreciate you know, everybody's participation here. It's been fantastic.
Absolutely. So since we're coming closer to the end of the call, first of all, let me thank the panelists. It was a great discussion, great insights of how you guys actually took a very, very, so to say, physical concept and had to bring it into the virtual world. Very excited to hear that. And as Dan mentioned, and as we heard from you guys as well, it's like this will become like the new normal, that we will actually have like a mix of the physical world as well as the digital world. And I think actually I personally experienced some, I actually in 2011 had my first design thinking session that was actually a mix between in-room and virtual, because one of our executives couldn't join himself. So he was actually stuck in New York because his flight got canceled. So we actually brought him in via video. And he was giving you, similar to your example, Shahid, it's not 75 minutes input, but like he had like his input as well and was following the conversation in the room via video. So it was quite interesting to see. And that was 9 years ago, way before we thought about any lockdowns or so. So no, definitely great to see that there is movement going and that this doesn't stop you guys. And with regards to the next session, so what we're actually doing is like we are recording all of these sessions, and you can find them actually, and we had posted that also in the chat under the tiny URL link /SAP-Fiori-side-chat. You find all the recordings from previous chats there. You find actually the agenda for the next chats coming up there as well, and all the related login information for to join the calls. And with that, thanks a lot again to the panelists. It was great to have you, and I'm looking forward to one of the next sessions that we will have with you guys. And stay healthy, stay safe, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you again. Thank you.